All right, let's do this. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I'm an old pro at this game. Old family recipe. And then I open up the screen to a completely empty list of save files. I have played this before, I can assure you. You have to believe me. I told you I'd shoot, but you didn't believe me. Why didn't you believe me? Yep, that's our name, all right. But yeah, I used to play this game all the time. He says, well, if it isn't Star Fox. Wouldn't that be funny if he thought he was in the wrong game? I mean, not really, but might get a mild laugh out of us. So it doesn't matter which of the Pokemans you pick. It just determines what you get for the background. No bearing on the gameplay whatsoever. Alright, now watch me smoke this clown. So, something that's going to become apparent as we get going here is, this particular game, it's not based on the Pokemon games per se, but rather it's based on the anime. I guess there's a lot of overlap between the two of them, but you'll notice that they borrowed a lot of the music from the anime, and obviously they got Ash in it, and, he's not in the games. Whoopsie doodles, I picked the wrong button. The buttons to go forward and go back are flipped on the Mr. menu compared to what we're doing here, so my muscle memory's all screwed up. But yeah, this is based on the show rather than the games. You'll recognize some of the music if you're like a fucking millennial, like I am. And, I guess they did something similar with Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine that was based on the show rather than the games. That's just something they did for puzzle games for whatever reason. That would be like if they had a Mario-themed puzzle game and it was based on that shitty cartoon from the 80s. Imagine that. That would be so completely bizarre. Ever see that thing where there was a TV station in California somewhere where they had like a rapper show where a guy was in a Bowser costume and apparently the show came to an early end because the guy in the Bowser costume like threatened one of the kids in the audience or something. That's a real thing I'm referencing. That's out there. Anyway, I think most of that is lost media. But yeah, it's Brock. Watch me smoke this clown. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there an announcement semi-recently that Brock is no longer part of the Pokemon anime or something? He got me too'd. Haha, but yeah, I feel like they did something like that. After 30 years, they finally ran out of ideas with this character. Damn, they really know how to celebrate getting badges in Pokemon, huh? Interesting choice on their part, but yeah, I'm not really well versed in the Pokemon anime, especially the new ones, because I don't have autism. Well, I do have autism, but not that kind of autism. Anyway, I really only know the first generation, and even then I don't know it that well, because the show was never really on when I was a kid. Well, it was on, but I couldn't find it, I should say. It's like, where do you even find this? It's not on Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or any of those. I think it was one of those like old-fashioned Saturday morning cartoons where you could only see it, 1 week at a time. As a kid, I never really had the mental wherewithal to follow a schedule like that and like plan out when I'm gonna watch stuff. So I missed a lot of good stuff because, they had Foxbox with Sonic X and the Kirby cartoon, and I never got to see any of those because it was only on once a week, and if you missed it, you missed it. Well, there goes Misty. 37 seconds. My Puzzle League skills are slowly returning to me. I'm remembering how to actually do this. I wasn't lying when I said that I'm an old pro at this. Okay, next up we've got Lieutenant Surge. When I was really, really young, I had like a kid's book about about Pokemon, and specifically it focused on the anime episode where Ash fought Lieutenant Surge, and how the lesson was he needed to evolve Pikachu with the Thunderstone, but he chose not to because he was good the way that he was. I think that's the lesson of what it was. Yeah, I had that as like a little printed kids book many, many years ago. And I guess that's more engaging than trying to like directly base the events of the anime off of the game, because in the game you have to get the TM that teaches you cut, and you have to cut down the little tree in order to get to Lieutenant Surge's, I almost said dungeon, to get to his gym. That wouldn't make for very entertaining television if they had an episode where Ash had to cut down a little tree before he could do like the big Pokemon battle. That's what they call a bottle episode. You ever see those video episodes on, video essays on bottle episodes, like when they tried to catch the fly in Breaking Bad, or when they waited to get seated at the Chinese restaurant in Seinfeld, and others presumably? Common trope in Hollywood. Alright, now watch me smoke this clown. Do you recognize this music, by the way? I mentioned earlier that all of the music is taken from the anime, and this is that one song, What Kind of Pokemon Are You? Do 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 do. I think they had a variation of that at Pokemon Live, the musical. I've seen tapings of it, I didn't see it in person. For God's sakes, I'm not that screwed up. But anyway, yeah, Pokemon Live, they would ask random kids in the audience, what kind of Pokemon are you, kid? And he'd just be like, okay, and then they'd just move on to somebody else. Oh gosh, those tapings of Pokemon Live are just so bizarre. It must have been just absolute hell for the parents who had to see that. There were interviews with the parents afterwards for like the big commercial for it. It's like, what did you think of Pokemon Live? And like the kids all loved it, and the parents are just all, I liked the, there was the part where, oh my goodness. In case you couldn't tell by all of these hyper-specific Pokemon references that I've been making today, Pokemon was my main thing when I was a kid. Just every day with that stuff, I couldn't get enough. My main 4 interests when I was a kid, I guess in chronicle order, would have been a Pokemon, then DBZ, then Star Wars, and then Marvel finally. And then I became all bitter and calcified in my ways, and I stopped having interests in fun things that I did in my life. I never smiled again. Anyway, so next up we got Koga. Remember Koga? He had the gym with the invisible walls? Gosh, trying to get through that fight with just a Venusaur was hell on earth. I still remember that almost 20 years later. Just utterly brutal. And you know, Koga rhymes with toga. Yes, it does. What's your point, you're probably wondering? Well, you see, when I went to school, one day we had Toga Day at school for whatever reason, because I just went to school in Crazy Town and anything could happen. And so for that day, you were allowed to wear a toga at school, and I guess it was encouraged, and thank goodness nothing bad happened as a result of that. That sounds like it could be a potential disaster. Like another kid could like step on the teacher's toga or something while they're walking, and it would get ripped, and God knows what happens from there. Thankfully none of that happened. But yeah, just another one of the many strange things that happened to me back in the day. You ever look back on your life stories and just think, man, it's a wonder I'm not in a straitjacket? So there goes Koga, back to the big Pokemon dungeon in the sky or whatever. Will we ever see him again on this channel? Probably not. And then next we've got Sabrina. Remember what this character's claim to fame was? She used her magical psychic powers to turn all the cast members into dolls, and they were all shrunken down and they couldn't move. In the age of DeviantArt, some horrible screwed up person could take that concept and just run away with it. Sweet Jesus, the possibilities are endless, and that's not a good thing in this case. Things would get very Gulliver's Travels very fast. Oh, my own imagination is running wild at what horrid people could do with that. She would do it to the cast one by one and make the rest of them stand there helplessly and watch as it all went down. And what is he talking about right now? Anyway, so, by the way, there are voices in this game, but I have them turned off because they're annoying. And this particular stage is extra annoying because the noise that they use for Abra, it's just this horrid shrieking. It's like, who thought this was a good idea? I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear screams of agony every 5 seconds. How am I going to differentiate them from the ones that I already hear inside my own mind all the time? I don't need more of them. Free will, bitches. You can just do whatever you want in your videos. Well, not whatever you want, but you know what I mean. Now watch me smoke this clown. Bah!